All right, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome back. And now we're going to talk more about Derick Hall as a player, not just a number. And Derick Hall, the player, I think is going to make a lot of Seahawks fans happy. I don't know if it's going to be immediate, though. I'll talk more about that as we go along here. But to me, after having a look at Derick Hall, I think he is going to kind of replace Boye Mafe on the conveyor belt. And I'll talk about what I mean later in this video, but I definitely see this rookie year as being one where Derick Hall's trying to find his way and may make some contributions, but it's going to be very similar to what we got from Mafe last season. Now, there are a lot of things to like about Derick Hall. I'll start listing them. He was a 2022 team captain, which is indicative of his leadership and his plus character. And the thing to understand is that Auburn, the last several years, has been a bit of a mess. They've cycled through coaches and defensive coordinators. There's been a lot of just chaos in that program, and that has in some ways held Derick Hall back from being the player that he could be. But the fact that he was able to emerge as one of the leaders during that tumultuous time was a credit to him. I think that you see a lot of interest in this with this front office right now in terms of getting players like this, guys who they can depend on, guys who they know are going to be reliable, guys who have leadership, guys who have the right mentality. There's a lot of that going on here with these picks. Once he gets on the field, he's got a strong and sturdy build that will allow him to hold up against the run. There's been some concern about him as a run defender in the NFL. Obviously, that could be a little bit of a thing early, but I do think that Derick Hall will become a good run defender because he is primarily a strength guy. He does obviously have some speed. He does have some burst and explosiveness, but the name of his game really is using his strength. So I think he's going to hold up against the run well once he gets going. He has a little bit of bend as well, not a lot. He's certainly not Myles Garrett or Von Miller, but occasionally you will see him dip underneath offensive tackles, which that's going to be something that is key to developing him properly in the NFL. He's got long arms, which is something I mentioned in the video this morning. It allows him to win engagements with linemen frequently. Quite often, you will see the guy with the longer arms come out better, and he's got longer arms than a lot of the offensive linemen he's going to go up against. So that is a tremendous asset for him, and it's going to make him all the better as a player once he gets going. He also has a good understanding of leverage. Part of that is because he is a little bit shorter, but when he gets engaged with offensive linemen, he wins the leverage battle by getting lower pretty often. Not always, but he seems to understand it too, because obviously being short helps, but it's not just about being short. It's about getting down. It's about sinking your hips. So I think he's good in that area. He is capable of being explosive off the snap on passing plays, which is proven by his 10-yard split. You don't always see it, but sometimes you do. And then once he uses that explosiveness, he converts his speed to power really well. In fact, that is his main pass rush move. Convert speed to power. That is the name of the game with him. He's got strong and heavy hands that land big punches that help him win those trench battles. He's able to get into the chest of offensive linemen and dictate the exchange based off that. He's aggressive and tough, just generally speaking, in how he plays football. He does have a tough streak to him, a mean streak to him that you don't always see with these players, and sometimes not seeing it can be a big problem. He's got enough speed to chase down plays that go away from him. If he's on the other side of the field, he can chase it down. He's got good closing speed when he's close to the football. When he senses that he's on the verge of making a play, he finishes the job. He was, like I said, like the numbers indicated, pretty good at coverage drops at the college level as well. So I have no concerns about him playing 3-4 end. I'm sorry, 3-4 outside linebacker. Again, there were some people who thought he fit better in a 4-3. I completely disagree. I believe his fit in the NFL is a 3-4. Now, there are some things he's going to have to work on here. He needs to expand his selection of pass rush moves for the NFL. Right now, he kind of has... He does speed to power a lot. He's got like the club arm thing. He has a very limited repertoire of what he can do when he's rushing the QB. Very limited. Just a few different things. And in the NFL, he's going to have to get better at that. He's going to have to develop more moves, and he's going to have to plan better. Sometimes it seems like he's just kind of a little chaotic out there, not really understanding what he should be doing at any given moment. So needs to expand his pass rush moves. He doesn't have elite bend, even though I think he has a little bit of bend. It's fair to call him out for that. Even though he has heavy hands and can punch well, I don't think he's great at using his hands in any other context, mostly because he was not developed well in college because the Auburn program was such a mess. What this means is that he has a really high ceiling to get better from what we see him at right now because he wasn't developed properly. But that also means it's going to take some time for him to develop properly, and we're just going to have to wait that period out. The cerebral side of the game is also a little bit lacking. There was one game that I watched every snap, and this was 2021, so it was a couple years ago, and whatever, it's not as big of a deal now. But it was against Arkansas, and Arkansas, of course, has KJ Jefferson, and there's a lot to keep in mind if you're an edge defender playing against KJ Jefferson, and I thought that Derick Hall struggled with it. I thought that he looked indecisive and a little bit slow because he would hang back so long trying to diagnose who got the ball on zone read plays that he just couldn't really get involved as well as a more decisive player could have maybe. So he does have to become a more cerebral player. His hips are tight, leading to some issues with his ability to turn fluidly. And just overall, I feel like what was going on in Auburn did lead to substandard development for him. And I think that is largely bared out in the fact that from 2021 to 2022, he didn't really seem to take a step forward anywhere. I don't know if he took a step backward, but he seemed a little stagnant, which shouldn't happen typically because it's not like he was a Will Anderson level superstar in 2021. And I think a big reason why is because Auburn's coaching staff was a little bit of a mess. So that's kind of what I mean when I say Derick Hall is replacing Boye Mafe on the conveyor belt. And that's fine because we've got kind of an embarrassment of riches at the other end of the conveyor belt. Last year, you had Uchenna Nwosu, who gave you great all-around play. You had Darrell Taylor, who gave you flawed but valuable play. And then you had Boye Mafe, who gave you a little bit of like flashes as a rookie type play. This year, you still have Nwosu. Taylor, I don't know if he's really going to get better, but he should at least be the same limited but still productive player. Mafe is now in year 2, so he pushes into the area where he should start becoming an all-around really good player. And then you have Derick Hall being added to the back of the conveyor belt where he becomes the guy who flashes but doesn't do big things yet. So we didn't lose anything at the front of the conveyor belt, so therefore the back of the conveyor belt just kind of gets refreshed. That was kind of a weird metaphor, but think about like, I don't know, the thing you put the patties on at a fast food restaurant. I don't know. Imagine that there's a big buildup of cooked patties at the end. That's what we have in the edge room. I don't know, it worked better in my head. But anyway, that's what I see from Derick Hall for these reasons. He's going to need a little bit of time. He needs to develop more pass rush moves. He needs to get smarter. He needs to develop how to use his hands. These things are going to come, I think, but it is going to take a little bit of time. Now, I watched 2 games of his over the last couple years. Let's take a look at that. First game I watched was one of his best games ever. It was against Arkansas in 2021. Mostly, I believe PFF gave him like a 92.5 grade for this game. It was a really high grade for this one. But it was mostly because he had a monster sack, forced fumble that created a instant touchdown. It was a strip sack on KJ Jefferson in the end zone that was recovered by Auburn. And that play basically ended up flipping the game and winning the game for Auburn. But other than that play, you can still see positives and negatives from him. Very early on, there was a QB read option where I felt like he got fooled and he completely missed on KJ and gives up the outside. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about how he has to develop the more cerebral side of his game. He was the spy defender a lot on KJ Jefferson read options, and he looked very indecisive to me. I did notice that he switches back and forth between the left and right side of the line. I'm interested, where does he think he's more comfortable? Remember, we did this with Darrell Taylor. Darrell Taylor likes to come from the left side, which was surprising to a lot of people because a lot of people think as a pass rusher you want to come from the right side more, but he likes coming from the left. So I'd be interested to know where Derick Hall feels like he's better, but he does switch back and forth. He had an inside move to generate a quick pressure on a 3rd and short on KJ Jefferson, which I believe did end up going incomplete. So he did show a little bit of a pass rush move there. He got to the outside edge of the tackle to force the QB to leave the pocket. He did show a little bit of bend in how he was able to kind of get under and around the offensive tackle. So you're seeing a little bit of versatility with his pass rush. Again, very limited, but it's not just the same move every time, at least. He had a good rep holding up against the run and forcing a bounce outside and tackle for loss. So there are plenty of plays that you do see where his raw strength allows him to hold up against the run, which is why I feel like he will be a good run defender. However, then the next rep, he gets pushed out of the play on a positive run. So there is some inconsistency there for sure, and this is something I noticed even with the game that I watched from last year. Forces the QB to hesitate on a designed run up the middle by moving his blocker. Gets outside tackle and forces the quarterback to leave the pocket. Chase down tackle on KJ Jefferson. It was a really impressive play. He just kept coming and coming and coming. He got great pushback on a 4th and inches play in the red zone. He didn't make the tackle, but was involved in the stop by pushing his man back. He looked a little, like I said, in this game he looked a little indecisive and unsure of where he should be. But he was consistently at least attempting to maintain defensive integrity against the zone. He was not just crashing on the running back over and over again. He was actually making a concerted effort to fill his responsibility. There was one moment where he got caught as the 12th man on the field, although I think there were like 14 men on the field. He had an illegal hands to the face penalty. It was a 15-yarder in the 3rd quarter. There was one really nice play where Arkansas ran a shotgun draw, and he showed off his strength. He fought through his blocker, and while engaged with his blocker, he used one hand to reach out and grab the running back and bring him down for a loss. He had pressure from the edge on a sack from an interior defensive lineman. It was one of those plays where the outside guy and the inside guy both get pressure and the quarterback has nowhere to go. He got the edge of the tackle for the end zone strip sack that resulted in the touchdown that I mentioned earlier. He had a zone drop where he just kind of drops back to the flats for coverage. And the zone drop turned into like a quarterback spy where KJ took off and Hall stayed with him and was able to bring him down for either no gain or a 1-yard gain. So that was an impressive bit of awareness for him where he dropped back into coverage but then turned into a QB spy. He was involved, although he didn't directly make the play, on a big 4th down stop late in the 3rd quarter on 4th and 3. He had a man coverage rep against a back coming out of the backfield, notable. And he assisted in collapsing the pocket on a crucial 3rd down to force a 4th down. Late in the game, he did start to get double-teamed a little bit, which I definitely noticed. And there was I think there were actually 2 snaps in this game where he was a linebacker, just a pure linebacker who would just stand there and watch KJ Jefferson for, if he would take off, he would go chase him. So some negative plays from this one, but this was an impressive 2021 game from him. The other game I watched was last year, Missouri. 6 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and a pick. He was, again, the QB he was frequently watching the quarterback on read option. Made a 2-yard tackle on, I can't remember who the Missouri quarterback was last year, but made a nice play against the read option. He looked way more decisive and fast in how he was playing versus 2021, I noticed. You could see the improvement as a player, even though I know he seemed stagnant. He just seemed more decisive in this game. I noticed that he was pretty much always standing up, even when the opposite edge player had his hand in the dirt. There were some plays where he's good against the run. There's some plays where he's getting pushed back and giving ground. This was the game where he got an interception, of course. It was a zone drop. Defensive back tipped the ball away from the receiver. It bounced up, and Hall got it. There are some plays where he looks a little slow and lackadaisical. I feel like it's just like a thing where you can't give 100% on every play. There was one play where he tried to get inside pass rush on 3rd down and got pancaked. Not a good look. He played... It felt like he was almost always on the field in this game compared to the Arkansas game where he came off the field a lot. He had a coverage pickup in the flats to force a throwaway in the red zone later in the game. He had an impressive move to shake the offensive tackle. It's like that thing where you're going outside and then you stick your foot in the ground and you go inside. He was able to do that to get the sack. There was another running play where I felt like he got pushed back pretty badly. He lined up as a slot cornerback once and then blitzed at the snap. There was one really nice play he had against the run where he burst into the backfield off the edge and just blew the offensive tackle all the way back into the quarterback for a sack. He had a big TFL late in this game as well, deep in the deep in Missouri territory, and just completely shed a block just immediately to generate a really nice tackle for loss, 6-7 yard loss. He ran a stunt at one point in this game from right to left on a 3rd and long, so it's nice to see stuff like that. And it was a really good game from him, really impressive game. You do see those occasional reps where it seems like he will be a little bit of a work in progress on like some running plays, but I see the strength that should allow him to become a 3-down player. And in this game in particular, you can see the burst that will make him become a dangerous pass rusher as well. It just might take some time. All right, let me know what you guys think down below. That's Derick Hall by the attributes, I guess you could say. And tomorrow we will be doing our second round pick, Zach Charbonnet. See you guys later. Go Hawks.